Okay. Is this going to be a repeat or is this something different?
No, this is going to be a repeat.
Okay, okay, okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm doing the new one is on asparagus today.
Okay.
Later on, yeah. So is that what, so when you're, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So when you look at the classes and sign up for them, is it your expectation that there's new content even with the same title?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So, because when you mentioned it the other day that I was back, I said, oh, this must be a repeat. And it was.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, let me try to get on early and ask you if it's a repeat or not. So if it changes any word verbiage, then I'll know it's going to be something different.
Yeah, for now, that's the way we're going to do it. You know, maybe I'll say take two, or I'll somehow let you know if it's something different.
Okay. Okay. All right then. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
We're good, Deb. Yes,
All
we are
right.
live now, and
Max.
you're host back,
Okay.
and you're gonna make me co-host for this class.
Sure thing.
Here they come.
Gloria. Thank you. There's Gloria. I haven't seen you for a while, Gloria. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Deb. Good to be here. I was taking a get set up break.
Oh, you were. Well, we all need breaks sometimes from everything. Here we go, Max. I hope you were doing something fun.
I was doing some day trips. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. It's probably felt good to do some trips.
Yeah. Now that you can get out and about a little bit more, it feels wonderful.
Really great.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Hi,
Sharon.
Deb. I'm in hiding because I'm working, so I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Thanks for telling me that, Sherry. I really appreciate that.
Sure, no problem.
And I'm going to turn my volume up. I'm having a hard time. I guess maybe because I have my oven on underneath my computer. So, hi, Kathy. Hi, Marjorie. Hello, Karen.
Hi.
Nice to have you here.
Okay.
There you are. Hey. Now I'm going to ask you a question, Marjorie. Were you in this class? Did you come to this class before, the one on quinoa?
No, I haven't been on this one.
Okay. All right, good.
And I'm sorry, I have to leave early today. I have an appointment at 1 o'clock, so I'll be leaving probably 15 minutes early.
I understand. I just had somebody say they were checking in to see if this was new, the same title but new information, and I had to disappoint her and say no, it's the same information as before. So,
No, I haven't been to it.
Okay. Just wondered whether when you look at classes, whether you see the same title, do you assume it's going to be the same material, or do you think it's going to be something different? What do you think?
Well, sometimes it depends on what the course is. But like a cooking class, like you said, if it has the same title, I'll expect it to have the same material.
Okay.
But like the one that you do, let's talk food or something like that, or let's talk cooking.
Oh yes, that
one I expect to be different.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. And now you should see that beautiful picture of, what is that up there? Anybody ever see this before?
No.
In the wild, quinoa in the wild. That's how quinoa grows. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And it is indeed a superfood. And we'll talk more about that too. So the more that you can work quinoa into your diet, the better. And it's a great replacement for rice and all kinds of other grains that we currently eat. So I'll get ahead of myself. Let me move on. Is there anyone here today who is brand new to any of my classes? Okay. Anybody new to get set up, period. All right. So we all know each other. I can't always tell when I don't see people on camera and first names I can't recognize. But anyway, if there is anyone here who doesn't know me, and for those of you who are on live stream, my name is Deb Livingston, and I'm a guide in York, Pennsylvania, where it is sunny and starting to try to get warm. I can only hope that that will happen soon because it's been very cold here lately. My background is in training and development in business and all of those things that go along with business management and coaching and so on. And so now I'm not doing that. Now I am with you talking about cooking and being excited about my garden coming in, and can't wait to talk more about how we can put things together. There's Sherry. I see you're in the car now, it looks like, or you're somewhere else. So you all know the ropes here at Get Set Up, and that we really like to learn from each other, and it's a collaborative effort. We're different that way from going and viewing a YouTube video or some other kind of instruction where you don't really get to interact. So it's ideal if you can have your camera on and if we can converse and ask questions as we go along. I want to introduce you to Max. If you haven't met Max before, he's one of our Get Set Up TAs or technical support people, teaching assistants, and he's going to keep an eye on the chat, let me know if there's anything in there I should know about, and also help you out if there are any kind of technical issues. So hello, Max. Thank you for being here. And Max doesn't come on camera. That's just part of the deal, but he's there very much. There he is. Woohoo. You can request a copy of the recording. You all know that at help@getsetup.io. And I just wanted to let the folks in live stream know that we're here and saying hi to you and inviting you to come in the room too and be part of the conversation. Go ahead and register for a class. We would love to hear from you and engage you as well. We are just talking about recipes today. We're not talking about any products, but if we were, we would be saying we don't have any financial connection with any organizations that we are representing to you. Just think you might like the products, or in this case, maybe some websites. So I've got this idea about doing a spotlight series just on one ingredient because it's kind of helpful to know what the background is on some of these foods and when they're grown, where they're grown, how they're grown. I was talking to people in class the other day and asking what's in season in your area. And, lots of times we don't know because we get everything from the grocery store and we get everything all the time. So it's sort of good to go back to our roots and understand what's being grown in season, whether there's something available in our area or whether we're dependent upon it coming from someplace else. So I like this kind of format for that reason. So we're going to talk about what is quinoa, how it's grown and harvested. It's really pretty fascinating. Some of the nutritional benefits that I alluded to earlier, and then talk about how to cook it. There's two ways to cook quinoa, and I'm really glad that I found the second way. So I'll be sharing those with you. And then I have some recipe ideas. I'm going to make quinoa salad today and then a tasty treat as well. So I'm curious, what had you sign up for today's class? What are you interested in, or what were you hoping to learn about quinoa today?
I'm hoping to learn just a few more recipes. I mainly make salads with it and have thrown it in soups, but that's about it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And I think it's one of those learning processes. As a matter of fact, Marjorie was thinking about, could I work some new recipes into this class, because I'm still growing with my knowledge of quinoa as well. And I have made some recipes with quinoa that were a substitute for rice, and I didn't really like them that much. So I'm still in a quest to find main courses that I really enjoy. And when I do, I'll share those with you. Anyone else? Want to share why you came today? Is it all about the recipes, or did you come to see me?
Probably both. No, I don't even know if I've had quinoa, but I always buy this salad stuff from Trader Joe's. Does it have kind of a grainy texture? Yeah, I would never have seen it not cooked. Or,
See
but
it?
yeah, so it is grainy.
Let me
Grainy.
stop my share here a minute. Yes, can you see that?
Yes,
It's very tiny little seeds.
that must be what was in the it was a Middle Eastern salad, cold salad.
It may have been quinoa or it could have been couscous. That's a very common pasta type thing that's used in Mideastern dishes as well.
Okay.
So getting more familiar with it just in general would be helpful, right?
Right.
Okay. Anyone else want to add before we move on? Okay, well, we saw this first picture and know that that is now the seed head. That's the seed head. That's where all those little tiny seeds are. So my question is, do you cook with quinoa now? I heard Gloria say that she uses it for salads and in soups. How about the rest of you? Are you using it at all? Sherry, you're looking for ways to use it? Nope, really not too much. Marjorie, you're shaking your head. You don't cook with it at all right now?
I do have it. I've cooked maybe once or twice with it, but I do really need some recipes.
Okay. All right, let's get started then. So how is it grown and harvested? Well, the first thing I'll say is that just for anybody who is out there who's kind of a nerd on where plants and how they're categorized, quinoa is actually considered a seed, but you'll hear it called a grain, and it's in the category of what is called pseudo cereals. So cereals come from grasses, and that's where grains come from. So wheat is considered a cereal grain. And quinoa isn't quite in that category, but you know, we lump them all together. I just wanted you to know that there is a slight difference here in the naming convention with quinoa. You'll hear it be called either one of these things, but it's technically a seed. 90% of it's grown in South America, and it takes about 90 to 120 days, depending upon the cultivar, to be harvestable. And it can be harvested by hand and machine. Now, in South America, most of that harvesting is done by hand. Can you believe it? And I know for one company that provides this to us, Bob's Red Mill, still gets it from South America and claims that their quinoa is hand-picked. So I wanted to just take a minute. This happens to me too much. We have a little...
Está cosechando la quinoa negra aquí. ¿Está normal que es tan chica la planta o no?
Hi, can you help me, Max, with that?
Es un poco chico. ¿Es por razón de falta de lluvia o por qué?
Thank you, Max. I don't know where that's coming from exactly.
María mismo siempre es así, de ese tamaño. Este no puede ser muy...
Sí,
So
ok.
here we are.
No, porque hay variedades
you know
de negra
what?
que están más grandes, ¿no?
Sí, hay otra variedad de negra. Así lo cosechamos.
Could be my...
Sí.
Para evitar que dentro de la tierra.
Could be my...
Está cosechando la quinoa negra aquí.
Sí.
¿Está normal que es tan chica?
My apologies. That's my video. It started too soon. So let me...
Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look.
Technical difficulties. This is a very short video. And you can read the footnotes there, or the closed
Está
caption.
cosechando la quinoa negra aquí.
Sí.
¿Está normal que es tan chica la planta o no?
Un poco chico está.
Es un poco chico. ¿Es por razón de falta de lluvia o por qué?
Sí. Un poquito ceñido. María mismo siempre es así, de ese tamaño. Este no puede ser muy...
Sí, ok. No, porque hay variedades de negra que están más grandes, ¿no?
Sí, hay otra variedad de negra. Así lo cosechamos.
Sí.
para evitar que entre la tierra.
All the care they take in harvesting this quinoa, and there are varieties. So what they were talking about there was the black variety, and that there are many black varieties, and some are shorter than others, some are taller. Certainly that is much shorter than those ones that we were looking at on the first picture. And so it's interesting to see that that's also, it sounds like they said the plants are old. So I'm not exactly sure, and I couldn't really find it out, that whether they're perennials in certain areas, and they may be in South America. So that's one example of how this is harvested in South America. Compare and contrast that to what's happening in the United States, where at this point we have become huge consumers of quinoa. So farmers in this country have said, I'm going to get in on that action, and we're going to learn how to grow quinoa. So in typical American fashion, here's what happens.
First, for this Washington State farm,
It's a good section.
harvesting quinoa. After 5 decades growing everything from cabbage to wheat, Nash Huber recently finished harvesting the South American grain.
It's a beautiful crop.
With demand growing for quinoa, a small number of American farmers are testing out the crop.
We're in the early stages here, still learning. You know, this is, I kind of stepped off the end of the dock here with a little bit of a bite this year.
More than 90% of the quinoa supply comes from Peru and Bolivia. But Americans consume more than half the global production of quinoa,
Wow.
the edible seeds known for their nutritional value.
It's got all of the amino acids that human needs, so it's a complete protein, and that's really hard to find in grain crops.
16, 23, 27.
It's also been a challenge finding the right way to grow it in the US. Washington State University researchers are testing varieties that can withstand heat, along with late summer rains without sprouting.
I think to have like large acreage, a lot of farmers throughout the U.S. growing quinoa, it'll take some new variety development that works for the different regions.
While quinoa has been a boon for the economies of Peru
There's
and
red
Bolivia,
quinoa.
generating $111 million in 2012, recent overproduction has caused prices to drop, straining farmers, especially small ones.
The lower quinoa prices has affected them because it takes a lot of money to cultivate quinoa, more than other crops.
Quinoa's diversity is part of the appeal for farmers like Huber.
I hope I break even. You know, if we break even, make a little money, that'll be good, because I've learned quite a few things here.
A learning experience that could help reshape the future of quinoa on U.S. soil. Tracy Brown, Associated Press.
So there you have it, a little bit of background on what that quinoa plant looks like, how it's harvested, how it's grown and how it's harvested, and the fact that it comes in lots of different colors and colors. So this one, I'm going to stop the share. So this is the white quinoa. And then the last time I taught this class, I actually cooked some red quinoa, and that's what it looks like. And I'm going to use it today in my salad because waste not, want not, but my salad calls for white quinoa. I don't know how this is, it's probably not going to be quite the pretty because we're putting greens in with it, but I wanted to just show you that one of the things you can easily do with quinoa is cook it, put it in the freezer, and have it for later to mix into your soups and your salads. So that's what we're going to do today. Now, I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I wanted you to see the vast amount of nutrients that are in quinoa and the level at which they are in there. Look at that, 58% of our recommended allowance of manganese, and that's important for metabolism. and 30% of our magnesium. So this is really a great source of a lot of important vitamins and minerals. It's good. It's a good source of fiber. You know, we're supposed to be getting 25 grams of fiber a day. So that's really good. Pretty high in protein. And as you heard her say on the video, it's a complete protein, which means it has all 9 amino acids. Even beans don't have quite that. So if you're vegetarian, that's a good thing to be aware of. And 1 cup is minimal calories, 222 calories. So let's get right into it now, shall we? Let's talk about cooking quinoa. There are those 2 methods that I mentioned to you, and I'm going to show you method number 1, a recipe for that. It is very easy to cook, really. So it's a 1-to-2 ratio, 1 part quinoa to 2 parts either water or broth. So if you're making your own broth or soup stock, you can use that instead of water, which just gives it a better flavor. And all you need to do is, first of all, wash your quinoa. And here's why. There is something on the outside of the quinoa seed called saponin. It's a completely natural ingredient. In fact, it's an ingredient that was used in soaps or is used somehow in soap making. It's a soapy tasting kind of thing that is a protector for that seed so that birds taste it and don't like it. So we need to wash that off. If your bag says it's been pre-washed, you're good to go. My bag does not say pre-washed. So little tip on that. I have a sieve like this. Can you see this well enough without me stopping the share? It's got rather large holes in it. That's not ideal. What you want is and I think we put it away. We were doing dishes earlier today. Here. My husband was so kind to do the dishes and then he put it away. You want something that's more of a fine mesh strainer. And I washed my quinoa with that mesh strainer. The holes just are too big on that other one. So what we're going to do in method number 1, after we rinse that for a couple of minutes, we're going to transfer it into the sieve, remove the excess water, and then bring 2 cups of cold water and a little bit of salt, just like you would rice. So you're cooking it like rice here. And when the water boils, reduce the heat to medium low. So you're putting the quinoa into the cold water, bringing it up to a boil, and then bringing it back to a simmer and covering it for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then keep checking it to see that the water's been absorbed, much like you do with rice. And once that water is absorbed, take it off the heat, but let it covered and let it stand for about 5 to 10 minutes to steam a little bit. That should be the key to getting fluffy quinoa. Okay, so it isn't really all that much different from making rice. Now, I would have some problems sometimes with quinoa because you might know I'm doing a dozen things at one time and I forget about my quinoa and so on. Of course, not now so much that I have Alexa and I can remind her to tell me to check my quinoa, but I really like this method number 2, which simply says, guess what? You can cook your quinoa just like you cook pasta. So you put a lot of water in a pot, which is what I have over here, and you bring that water to a boil. I'm going to cook some here just so that you see it. I'd actually add a little more water. I'm only cooking a cup. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I thought you might find it interesting to see how much it yields, how much a cup yields. Because I went on and looked in a number of different places. I even asked Alexa over here how much dry converts to cooked. And I found like 3 different answers.
Sorry, I don't have an answer for that.
She heard me. So I decided I'm going to prove to myself how much it is, and I'll let you know. So we'll cook a cup and see what it comes out to. So again, this is very easy. You use a cup of dry quinoa, and then 8 cups of water, or just sufficient abundant water, and some kosher salt, whatever you would like to put in there. You could also use broth, but you're going to be aware you're going to pour a lot of that away because you're using excess. So you bring that water to a boil and you clean your quinoa. So I've already done that, and I have it here in a bowl already rinsed and ready to go. So there is one other thing that you can do with quinoa, and I didn't do it here because I'm going to do it like a pasta, but in the other form, the other method, you can put it into your pan first with a little bit of oil, and you can toast it. So toasting it can bring out some additional flavors that might enhance your recipe depending upon what you're making. Sometimes it may matter, other times not so much. Okay.
Excuse me, Deb.
Yeah.
Does the quinoa clump together once it's rinsed off and sitting in that bowl?
Now since I've rinsed it, yeah, there's some clumping there, but it easily comes up. Can you see?
Yes.
When I stir my finger in there, it easily comes apart. It just was a little dry on top.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so once it is finished, and you'll know that it's finished because these little, let me go back here. These little white tails start to come out around the seed. That's how you know that it's finished and you're ready to drain it. Okay. So that couldn't be easier, right? 2 ways to do it. Now we shouldn't be off-put by making quinoa because it really is pretty simple. But now the question is, what do you do with it? So let's make a salad. And I love this salad for spring. Hey, Natalie, you have your thumb up. Is that like a yes, let's get to the recipe, or do you have a question?
Yes, recipe.
Okay, let's get to the recipe.
Could you hear me?
What's that, Natalie?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, to the recipe.
Okay. So I'm going to, I'm having a hard time. If you have a question, let's see, do we have something in the chat there, Max? Just having a little hard time hearing Natalie. Yeah, you're not clear on the, you're not clear on the microphone, Natalie, so I can't really make out. But Max is going to help there a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So I have quinoa here, and it calls for, in this recipe that I'm going to go through with you and send you after the class, so you don't have to worry so much about reading the recipe right now. It calls for a cup of dry quinoa. So I'm going to eyeball this now, as we do with our salads. We do that a lot. This is probably, if it was a cup, some recipes say that a cup yields 2, some say 3, some say 4. So it looks like I'm getting 2 out of this, 2 cups. And I'm going with that, and I'll watch the rest of my ingredients. But you know what? I think all of these ingredients are very forgiving. I like to actually have more vegetables in my salads anyway. So what I have for vegetables are 2 cups of blanched peas and a bunch of blanched asparagus. What did I do? I dropped them into boiling water for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then I drained them and plunged them into ice water so that they would stop cooking, so I'd still have some crunch here. So they're really that beautiful green. That's what we're looking for. And this recipe doesn't say what kind of quinoa to use. I just happen to think the white looks pretty, but I'm anxious to see how this looks when I put it in. So I'm just putting that in there. And I also am going to add 3 sliced green onions or scallions. Oh, okay, Natalie, I see that she says she's on Amtrak, so she's having a hard time. I get you. Good to know Amtrak can at least get you that far. To be online is pretty good. All right, so I'm going to stir that up a little bit. Oh, it kind of looks interesting with the red quinoa. I'll show you in a minute here. So that's it so far. Very veggie. And okay, we added the scallions. We are also going to add some toasted almonds. And you can use slivered almonds. I happen to have the shaved almonds, and I just toasted them in the oven. So that calls for about a 1/4 cup of those. And I'm just going to eyeball it. I've made this many times before, so I know what I like. And I'm good with that. Sometimes if I'm going to keep this for a while, I add more almonds later because they do get a little soft if they've been in the refrigerator in this salad for a few days. And now we're also going to add some herbs. So what I have for this is what makes the salad really tasty. It's quite a bit of herb. And one of the primary ones is dill. So I thought I would have you used fresh dill before? Okay. Running out of room here. Going to cut the fresh dill. It's also going to call for lemon zest. So this is the zest of 1 lemon. I used my little zester here to do that. And I'm just going to scrape that into the salad now because I need the cutting board. I've already sprayed this dill so that it is clean. And I'm just going to start at the top. I believe it's a 1/2 cup of this and a 1/2 cup of parsley. Yep, a 1/2 cup of fresh dill and a 1/2 cup of Italian parsley. And I think this fresh dill really makes this salad. I made it the first time with dry dill. I was a little worried because it called for, it was a lot of dill. I used a 1/4 cup, which is what you do when you're substituting a dry herb. And it was very good. I guess I didn't use quite a 1/4 cup.
Do you grow your own dill?
Actually, I do. My dill, I had dill all over my garden. It's seeded everywhere. Okay. And I noticed last year that it had started to die out, or it maybe got weeded out. So I might have to seed some more of that and let it go to seed so that I get it again. I don't care if where it pops up. It's nice to have it. Do you grow yours, Gloria?
No, I have not. But, I'm thinking when you're showing this, I should throw some seeds in. Yeah.
Very easy. And you know what? The butterflies love it. So it's a nice, I like that about my herbs. I like that I attract caterpillars that become beautiful butterflies, and I just have all this activity in my garden all summer long, and that's nice. And, you have to grow a good bit of it, cut it back so that it gets bushy. All right, so there's my 1/2 cup.
Does cilantro work in quinoa?
Yes, sure it would. And then you would use some different flavors. So yes, cilantro would be really good in quinoa with a little lime. You might do it with a lime type dressing. Yeah, that would be a good choice.
You have to wash all quinoas. You have to wash them first?
Unless the package says it's been pre-washed.
Okay.
Because it will taste bitter and you don't want to ruin your recipe. So now I'm just doing the same thing, going to Do the same thing with my parsley here. I had pretty much everything prepared, but I did think I'd chop some herbs because it would give us some time to talk about questions you have or about gardening if you have gardening. I grow parsley too. That's great to have. Does anybody grow their own parsley?
Oh yeah, that I have going year round. Yeah.
Yes, that's wonderful. And parsley's a biennial, which means that it grows for 2 years before you have to replant it. So know that if you do try it and you have it and next year it comes up and it's looking beautiful and then it goes away, well, that's normal. Okay. Now, oh, it smells so good. Let me make sure I've gotten all my ingredients. I need to put the dressing on next, which is nice. I don't, in this recipe, I don't even need to mix the dressing separately. So all I really have to do is give this a good toss, and the dressing is going to be that lemon zest and then 1/3 of a cup of olive oil and 1/3 of a cup of fresh lemon juice. So I did squeeze some fresh lemon juice today. And by the way, do you use fresh lemon juice? Do you squeeze lemons or do you have another way to do that?
I squeeze lemons.
Okay. Yep, me too. I use this little doodad. That's just my little hand doodad.
Yeah.
One of those. But
I love that one. Yeah.
Me too. It works really well.
Yeah.
Then I also have this on hand for those times when I just am worried that I don't have any lemons. I'd have this as backup. It's an easy squirt. So what I like about this is that it is pure, unadulterated lemon juice. There's nothing else in there. It's in the frozen section of the, it's in the frozen section with the juices, frozen juices.
Okay.
So something you might want to keep on hand in case you run out of lemons, which sometimes happens to me. So my quinoa water is boiling now, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in, put the quinoa in the water. I'm going to rinse that a little. Okay, so we'll let that go, bring back to a boil. I'll keep an eye on it. I will tell Alexa, set the timer for 8 minutes. I'll check it out and see what's going on. So it's the lemon juice here and 1/4 of a cup of olive oil. So 1/3 and 1/3. I used an extra virgin olive oil. Little bit of, it says 1/2 to 1 teaspoon of salt. So I am going to put a teaspoon in because maybe a little less, It's a lot of salad. And a little pepper to taste. So I will just do a couple of grinds here. Okay, and it's done. And here's the thing, you can't even see the quinoa in there very much. You see a lot of green vegetables. And like I said, I think the white quinoa would make it stand out even more, but it's going to taste the same. And I'm going to give it a try. See if it needs anything. But this is one of my favorite spring salads. Very good, very lemony, very refreshing. And I think that's a salad that I like to have cold, but you can serve it room temperature too. So there we go. That is quinoa salad. quinoa.
Deb, do you find all the quinoas? I just bought some tricolor, but do you find they all have pretty much the same taste?
I think so.
Okay.
The one, I can't differentiate. Some people say
Okay.
that they do have maybe some different tastes, but when I mix it with other things, I can't tell. So.
Okay. Thanks.
So I'm back here. I want to go back to my slide here and the rest of the recipes. I'm going to send you a recipe for burgers, and there's 2 recipes for burgers here actually. One is for a Mediterranean burger that's mixed with chickpeas, and one is a burger that is just made with quinoa. So what you might do, let's take a look at this one. This one is made with sun-dried tomato and mozzarella cheese, and I think it's a good one to use as a base to see whether you like quinoa as a veggie burger. I made this one first. I haven't gotten to the one with the Mediterranean flavors yet, but I felt a little bit like, this has possibilities, but it wasn't quite hitting my taste buds the way that I wanted it to. So why? Because it just needed something else. And so I thought, well, I'm going to give it to you anyway, because what you can do is play around with it a little bit. And I'd love to know what you experiment with and what you might put in these burgers, because they really are kind of a nice thing to have if you want a veggie burger that doesn't have beans in it. A lot of veggie burgers have beans in. So they're not hard, and they do set up nicely. Down here to the recipe. And you use let me get it up here, the cooked quinoa. So you can cook it in whatever way you choose, according to method 1 or method 2. And then you're just stirring all these ingredients together. The cup of cooked quinoa, some mozzarella cheese, some sun-dried tomatoes. What I thought here was that the mozzarella cheese didn't add much flavor. I'd probably opt for a more flavorful cheese, and the 2 sun-dried tomatoes didn't seem like nearly enough. So I guess I was just looking for more spice, more flavor. The scallions, there's not many scallions in there either. So I think the recipe would benefit from jazzing it up, and you all are creative, and I think that you would come up with something that would be very tasty. And who knows, we might have a get set up veggie quinoa burger that we put out there and see what kind of ratings it gets on Facebook or some cooking show. So the quinoa burgers that are Mediterranean have this tomato olive salsa on top, and the content of the burger is not only quinoa but also, let's see if I can get that to skip right down. Jump to recipe. That's what we're looking for. It also has in more sun-dried tomatoes than the last recipe, and it has a can of chickpeas in and a cup of old-fashioned oats. So there's quite a bit of bulk in here, and all good things. So you've got lots of protein, lots of fiber in these burgers, and then garlic and all of these other seasonings, and including feta cheese, which makes it really nice and Mediterranean. And I think that would be a good flavor combination. It also has basil in it and parsley. So that just requires mixing them all together and adding an egg, pulsing it a few times until it's really thick, folding in the rest of those ingredients like the sun-dried tomatoes, the feta, the parsley, and the basil, and then putting it into patties. And you can either refrigerate those or cook them immediately. And then the rest of the ingredients are the topping, the cherry tomatoes, the olives, parsley, basil, vinegar. And you can just put that over top and serve these on a bun or not. On a salad is fine. So that's another way to use quinoa. And then this way to use quinoa is kind of a fun way. Make some cookies. And I don't think I'm going to have the time to make the cookies today, but I'm going to talk you through the cookies. I'm going to check my quinoa, see how it's doing. So again, there are a lot of recipes for quinoa cookies out there, but a lot of times they use other ingredients too. And I decided to stay simple with this so that you could decide whether you like the flavor of quinoa by itself in a cookie. And these are very, very easy to make. And they turn out just like that picture. I have now made them a few times, and I've experimented with different kinds of sweetener, because those of you who've been to a lot of my classes know that I don't eat a lot of sugar. So when I'm making these for these classes, I have all these cookies. I have to do something, right? So I'm using reduced sugar in these. And it's good to have the protein of the quinoa. So jumping to the recipe, we're using quinoa flour this time. So has anyone ever seen quinoa flour in the store? I found it just browsing at the grocery outlet the other day. Alexa, timer off. Alexa wants me to check the quinoa.
My Alexa just answered saying there's no timers set.
Oh no, that's funny. Alexa, cancel. She's out of control because she heard you. So let's see. It's just about finished. I'm going to give it another minute or so. What I wanted to say about this is that you can buy the quinoa flour in the store, but you can also make your own flour by putting it through a processor. So I'm going to show you the flour though. Oh yeah, I said I got it at the grocery outlet for $5.99. So it looked like that. This is organic. I snapped it right up and thought, well, I have to experiment with that a little. And the flour looks like this. So it's a little off-white. It's unbleached. And the cookies, well, maybe I can make the batter anyway. I won't be able to bake them here, but they're very easy to make. It's a cup of quinoa flour. And it's a half of a, stop sharing so you can see me better. Half of a teaspoon of baking soda. Did we learn in home ec how to level off our spoons and our measuring cups with the back of a knife? Did you get taught that in school? I'm always trying to teach my granddaughters that. So a half teaspoon of baking soda and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Or a half of a quarter. And then it calls for a half of a cup of coconut sugar. So what I'm going to use instead of that is a combination of some ingredients that I like that are blended with sugar alcohols and stevia. And so I have something called Better Than Sugar that I use. It's erythritol and stevia. And I use this for the dill, so I have a little dill. It's a little on the powdery side and it sticks down there, so you need a spoon. Wow, that really, that got a little on the hard side. Huh, that's interesting. I didn't have that problem with the bag. So note that. Wonder what happened there. Well, go to plan B. I have another kind of sugar called sugar substitute or replacement called allulose. Again, it's also a fiber, a prebiotic fiber. It's something that actually is a natural substance found in food. And it's a little like granulated. I'm going to use that. I'm going to fill my measuring cup up halfway with that. And then since this does call for brown sugar, I'm going to add a little bit of coconut palm sugar just for that flavor. I don't think that'll be too much over the whole recipe. And the coconut palm sugar just looks like that. It looks a little like brown sugar. And that is sugar. This is real sugar, so it does add calories, unlike the allulose. It adds calories. And as I recall, they were plenty sweet for me, so I'm going to go a little on the light side of a half cup of total sweetener. Put that in there. And then all that we're doing after that is adding an egg and some coconut oil. That's it. So I'm going to add the egg. But crack it so that in case there's anything untoward in that egg, I don't mess up my batter. Beat it up a little bit. That in there. And then my coconut oil. Now, coconut oil comes in jars and it is solid. So it looks like Crisco or something like that. It's a saturated fat, so it's solid at colder temperatures. I melted this earlier, and now I'm going to. Did I say it's cold? It's solid at colder temperatures. I meant at room temperature, it's solid. So you need to melt it if you're using it in a batter like this. So I'm just going to stir this in together. And the thing about these cookies is that they don't spread out. You know, with butter and cookies, sometimes you get a good cookie spread. So you're going to put these on a sheet and and then just sort of in a circle, roll them in a ball and then flatten them out a little bit. So half a cup of these mini chocolate chip. I like those the best. There's the sugar in the mini chocolate chips. I'll have to freeze some of these so they don't all disappear. Now, what I like about this recipe is that it's a pretty small recipe. I think I made maybe 14 cookies out of this. I'm sure you could make an even dozen, but I don't measure that completely. Somewhere along those lines. Let's see what it tells you the yield is. You know how sometimes cookie recipes make so many, and you don't always want that many. This is perfect for a weeknight. You want a little sweet treat. So it does say 12. So the dough looks a little like that. And I'm just going to, it doesn't really come together like it does with butter and everything, but it does when you put your hands in there and roll it into balls. And I use this, I'm using this baking sheet with this silicone mat on top of it for my cooking. But before I do that, I'm just going to show you this quinoa and get it off the stove before it completely boils away. And if you can see that in there, not very well probably, but it's all those little tails are out. And I'm going to put it now through the, now I can use this sieve. It's not too big. I should have an overhead camera, but I don't, so I can't show you this, but I'll bring it in a minute. We'll let that drain a little while I do this. Running out of space. So now let's roll these. They're more like a squeeze roll. They're not like that kind of a roll. They're squeeze them together in your hand, lay them on the mat, and just press them down. So yeah, I just wanted you to see whether you would like the flavor. I will say I had my ESL student over the other day. I said, try one of these quinoa cookies. And Carmen isn't very shy about saying what she likes or doesn't like. She said, I don't like those, but I like them. And I'm going to keep making them. And you might like them, or you might decide maybe quinoa flour is an ingredient that you want to add in with your wheat flour to give your batter more nutrition. And that would be a perfectly good way to go. It would lessen the taste of the quinoa, but still get some of the benefits. So what I'm going to do then, when I'm finished rolling those or putting them on the pan, is bake them for about 8 to 12 minutes. That's all it takes at 350. So let's take a look at the quinoa now. I better put a bowl. And there it is. It's all done, and it's pretty nice and fluffy. I could put this back in the pan and steam it for a little longer. That'd be good too for fluffing it up. Okay. So I'll time out now. That's the cooking is, I've done the cooking part at this point. And what questions or comments or thoughts do you have about quinoa now? And about these recipes? What, are you going to try any of these recipes?
I'm going to try that salad. I love that. Looks great. I'm going to for sure try that.
Okay, I'd love to know what you think, Gloria.
Okay.
And Gloria, by the way, it has done exactly what I asked. She said she sent me some pictures of recipes that she's made. So she sent me some bean soup. It's bean soup recipes, right?
Right.
And
yep. Yeah. And then the stew, the Irish
vegan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I put that. I changed out the photo that I had in there of the bean soup before and put your photo in there and gave you credit for that. The Tuscan or the vegan Irish stew was special for St. Patty's Day. So I don't have that in there right now, but we have that on file. So thank you for sending that. And you can send anything like that to me, recipes, pictures. I love it. Deb the Guide at getsetup.io. And we'll be using those as time goes on. So what thoughts do you have? Anything, Sherry or anyone else?
I'm going to give it a try.
Let me give quinoa a try in general. Yeah, and you can use it. You can use it as a rice replacement. And so just think about using it that way. If you eat rice as a side dish, there's no reason not to cook quinoa like rice and then stir in, as you, I think you or someone was mentioning the cilantro, parsley, little butter, a little olive oil, just seasonings that you would season rice with. It's got a pretty neutral flavor. So anything that you cook it with will take on that flavor. And I think it's really a good idea to cook it in a broth rather than water, depending upon what you're choosing to eat it with.
I was going to ask you, what kind of olive oil have you determined is quality olive oil? I was reading something and I thought it said Moroccan olive oil is the best, but that was a particular slant and it was really hard to find. I found it at Whole Foods, but what kind do you like?
What kind was it, Paula?
Moroccan.
Moroccan. Wow, that is a particular kind of slant. You know, it's really funny. When I went over to when I was in Europe, we visited Italy and we visited France, and every country said their olive oil was the best.
That's why I'm asking.
And so, of course, it's really difficult to know. I do know that what they told us in France is that the olives that are pressed there, first of all, first cold press is important for olive oil. And then to look for an olive oil that is, if you can trace it down, a lot of Greek olive oils are made from olives that are imported in after they've been first pressed. So they're a conglomeration of oils. They're a lesser oil that way. So I don't know. Yeah. I've been using So I brought some back with me and I loved it, of course, but I can't get it anymore without paying a dear price. And this is not organic, but I did do some research, and has become my everyday olive oil because it got a pretty good rating. It's a California olive oil. You know, it's not a fancy European olive oil, but read up on that brand and see whether you think it's worthwhile. Because you're right, a few years back they did studies on olive oil and said that a lot of them weren't even made with olive oil. So that's more of a problem than anything. So, and there from there, it's not easy to navigate. Same thing with avocado oil now. And this is my favorite avocado oil. Same thing, they discovered that lots of avocado oils are blends of other oils and are sometimes often rancid when you buy them. So this one and Mary Ann's got good ratings from UC Davis, California study. Okay, so in an hour or so, I'm going to be doing a spotlight on asparagus and doing soup from scratch with Gloria's picture tomorrow on the slides. And Thursday afternoon, we get together.
I always.
Yes, Arlene?
Quinoa. I always put, not always, but often put quinoa into soups.
Yes.
I like them a little bit thicker than they usually are, but I always have lots of vegetables in it or chicken in it. And
that's a great suggestion, putting it into soup. And I think Gloria said she does that too. Puts that into soup. Okay. So you'll get all these recipes. I'll send them out after the class in the email. So look for that. Look for other classes that I'll suggest to you there. You know, you can schedule from there and you can give me feedback about this class, which I would love. And you know what that looks like down here with the stars and the comments for both the session and for me. And you can, from just about anywhere, click and invite friends. So we're really liking that we're seeing people do that and show up with their friends in classes. And you might find that to be a fun outing without going out, so to speak. And so happy to help you in any way to do any of these things as needed. And of course, as always, help@getsetup.io is the place to go if you want to host an interest group or suggest a new class, or maybe share an organization that you're a part of with Get Set Up that you think they should be connected, and also to request that recording that we do. So that.
I really like this format, Deb, as far as learning the history of like the quinoa.
Oh, you like that? I saw that.
Yes.
I saw that in your.
Yes.
Oh, I just was showing you my slides and you didn't see them, did you? Excuse me. So, excuse me.
Oh, it's after time. Never mind.
There. So I was sharing my screen. So you like the format with knowing a little bit about the background of the food, and then getting into recipes. Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that very much.
Deb, I don't see your asparagus class listed. It's not today, is it?
It is. It's actually at 2:30.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't think I can make it, darn.
Well, I'll have it next week, darn. Okay. And go ahead if you go into the website where you search for classes, you can put my name in there, and that can be an easy way to find some of my classes too.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you
so much
for coming. I hope you enjoyed it and got a few new ideas, and I'm eager to hear if you want to share. Have a great afternoon, great day.
Thank you for a fabulous class.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Sheila. We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you.
Bye-bye.